we'll start off talking about the LM property in Michigan. The background of this slide, you can see some of the mineralization we hit last summer. These are blebs of chalcopyrite, pentlandite, and pyrrhotite, so copper, nickel, iron sulfides. We were pretty excited about the potential to host another high-grade thing like the Eagle mine, which is nearby. I'll show you that in a minute. Right now, this is a joint venture between Bitterroot, we are the operator, and a private company, Below Exploration, which is based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We've been working with them for a number of years, and finally we're able to crystallize a joint venture in January. Just to note my forward-looking statements, don't believe me. So here we are. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan is a place that I've been working for about 25 years. We started off acquiring a very large land position. We owned over 350 square miles of mineral rights around the time of the Voisey's Bay discovery, because there's a lot of similarities in the geological environment here to other conduit-hosted deposits. The Voisey's lands, as we refer to them, are under a joint venture now with Altius Minerals, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the Upper Peninsula has been a very good place to work. There's a long history of mining, great road access. It's low-cost exploration. All the services you need are generally within 50 miles of where you're working. And there's, as I said, a long history of mining, copper mining up until the 60s. This was the largest source of copper in the US before the Arizona porphyries started getting developed. Cleveland Cliffs has been operating iron ore mines there for over 100 years. And there's been a few other discoveries nearby. And of course, Eagle Mine was discovered in the early 2000s by Rio Tinto, sold to Lundin Mining, and has operated very efficiently, and it's a very high profit, high margin operation. The one thing that's not on here is Sudbury. The concentrate from Eagle is taken by rail, about 6 hours run over to Sudbury, and that's where the smelters are. So it's not on tidewater as Darwin's projects, but it's in the midst of a lot of infrastructure. Another discovery that's worth noting over here in Minnesota, the Tamarack deposit of Talon Metals, is also a very similar type conduit-hosted thing that's noteworthy and gaining some attention. Our target, as I said, is conduit-hosted high-grade nickel copper in massive sulfides. These tend to accumulate in the plumbing systems below large intrusions, large mafic, ultramafic intrusions. And I won't go into the battery metal aspect of all this, but clearly nickel sulfide deposits are getting a lot more attention now than they have had in the last 20 years, largely driven by the need for battery grade nickel, which is the best source of battery grade nickel is sulfide nickel. There's been very little exploration for these things for 20 years since Voisey's Bay was discovered, and so there's a great opportunity, I think, to capitalize on our couple of decades of work here. Here's the Eagle Mine over here, and our project at LM is about 25 kilometers east. It's in the same geologic formations referred to as the Baraga Basin. So these are Proterozoic sediments sitting on top of Archean gneiss. And Eagle and Eagle East have a very small footprint, but are very high value. And I'll show you a cross section in a second. But a lot of the original exploration in this area was done by Rio Tinto. And in fact, they did drill one hole on our LM property, used to be called the Loosemore property. And they confirmed a decent interval, 185 meters of olivine gabbro, which is a good host for this type of thing. But they did not probe the plumbing deeper down in this system. they had some budget cuts in the late 90s and ended up walking away from the property before they could discover anything. Another discovery here off to the west, the Bic deposit. That's another mafic ultramafic massive sulfide deposit. The model we're chasing is the Eagle mine. Here's a cross section of Eagle on the left here, and Eagle East. The thing that attracted people to the area was an outcrop, a small outcrop of peridotite sticking up out of a glacial sand plain. And there was a small outcrop above Eagle of net textured pyrrhotite beside a creek. But otherwise, it was a virgin prospect until Rio Tinto came in the 90s and started drilling. The discovery hole at Eagle was about 85 meters of massive sulfide, and it led to the definition of just over 5 million tons at 2.9 nickel, 2.5% copper, with some platinum palladium as well. Eagle East was discovered after extensive drilling. This is about 900 meters depth. And that's about 1.5 million tons of better grade, 3.7 nickel, 3 copper. So not a huge deposit, but very high value. This thing, there's another magma chamber here below it. So this is kind of a flat spot where the magma came up from this staging chamber and then ran across, dropping out sulfides and then up to the surface. So we're seeing similar things happening on our LM property, but we think we're at a much deeper erosional level here. And we have intersected this disseminated mineralization, which forms a halo around the massive sulfides. So the challenge now is to find the massive sulfides nearby. The drilling results that we put out yesterday, I don't think I've ever put out visual estimates before in a news release, but the assay labs are so backed up right now, we're not going to see assays for 6 to 8 weeks. So the important thing here is we got about 3.5 meters true thickness. That's we got a massive sulfide zone at the base that's true thickness about 0.5 meter. That's about 80% sulfides, and some nice disseminated sulfide like we hit in our first hole last summer. So I like to think of it as we may have clipped the toenail of the beast, and we now need to get farther into it, and we're working on that. Here's some of the core. That's pyrrhotite, chalcopyrite, pyrite here. There's probably pentlandite in here, but we can't really see it without a microscope or an assay to confirm the nickel grades. But there's the basal argillites that the intrusion has come into, and here's the brecciated peridotite. More of this brecciated material. You can see disseminated sulfide through here, and what's termed as a rip-up clast of chalcopyrite. So again, this would have been transported from a nearby source of probably massive sulfide. Again, similar thing, a little close up, you get a good look at this disseminated blebby chalcopyrite in the peridotite, and some more of this massive sulfide, more or less pyrrhotite dominant, but also with chalcopyrite and probably pentlandite in there. So we'll have some assays and some better descriptions of these rocks as we get some thin sections made and so on in the near future. In terms of what are we drilling here, these are not big targets. The surface footprint of LM is well defined by a magnetic anomaly, and it's about 125, 150 meters long and about 100 meters wide, and it's plunging steeply. You can see we've drilled in a number of different directions, basically to define the shape of the conduit. And here's a 3D image here showing what this thing's starting to look like. And the thing that we really like is that our two mineralized intervals in hole 7 and hole, sorry, let me just get this moving here. In hole 7 and hole right there, that's what we just released, and hole 1 last summer. They're at about the same elevation in the intrusion and about 55 meters apart. Currently, hole 9 is underway. You can see we drilled hole 8 previously, and the dip flattened on us unexpectedly. So we kind of got out of the intrusion a little before we got to the basal contact, but we did define this other contact. Now we're drilling hole 9. So that's going to intersect the base of the intrusion about 80 meters down plunge from our other 2 mineralized intercepts. So it's an exciting time for us, and we hope to be through the base of the intrusion next week sometime. If we just look at a static image here, this is the hole we're drilling now in red, hole 9. Here's our 2 mineralized intervals. We also haven't drilled over here on this side yet, so we've got a bit of a blind spot. And a trend is emerging, I think, for where to go to hit larger concentrations of sulfide. And these things tend not to be very big, so they're tricky to hit. But for example, a block of massive sulfide, 200 meters square and 10 meters thick, is about 1.6 million tons, which would be an ore body in this environment here. You wouldn't need to build a mill. There is a mill 100 kilometers away that you could truck ore to, that's currently being used by Eagle. Eagle is expected to be depleted around 2025, so in about 4 years. So if we have any success here, I think there will be capacity in that mill to process additional ore. So right now we're drilling. We'll probably have to stop at spring breakup. So we'll be able to resume late May after the roads dry out, firm up. We should have some quote unquote rush assays in 6 to 8 weeks. My goal is to continue acquiring land around the LM property and elsewhere in Michigan, because the sulfide nickel play that we have between this project and our joint venture with Altius, I think, is fairly unique. The Altius joint venture, we've identified 10 high priority VTEM geophysical anomalies, so they're conductive and magnetic anomalies in a similar environment to what we're in here. So those things have never been drilled, and they're again low cost, easy access targets. So we hope to get some drilling done there, and in this year or next. And of course, the battery metals thing is getting a big push from people like Elon Musk that recognize the shortage of high quality battery metal. We also have a couple of gold projects in Nevada that I'm not going to talk about today, but I urge you to go to our website and have a look at the slide decks there, and high grade epithermal targets in the gold space, which are sleeper assets, but hopefully we can get those drilled later this year as well. And that's about all I have. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, check out our website. And again, thanks, Eric, for giving me a chance to present here.